A-frame, home with a structure that looks like a capital, quote, A, end quote. An A-frame house is a home with a very distinct structure in the shape of an A. A-frame homes were made famous in cold regions which have a lot of snow. The A-frame roof is very steep and the snow cannot accumulate on the roof. If you Google, quote, A-frame house in Alps, end quote, and click images, you will see many good examples of A-frame homes. While real estate professionals are not architects, they often have a good understanding of basic architectural building models. An A-frame home is a home with a structure shaped like a capital A. Scarcity, lack of supply. Scarcity is a lack of supply. It is most relevant in real estate from an economics perspective. A low inventory of properties to sell triggers the classic scarcity economics model that property prices will trend up. A lack of scarcity means a large inventory of properties to sell, and therefore property prices might trend downward, neglecting other issues. Scarcity is a lack of supply. Mutual assent, agreeing to a contract to the letter and to the spirit. Mutual assent is more than just mutual consent. Mutual consent is agreeing to the terms of an agreement. Mutual assent is agreeing to the full letter of the contract with a true meeting of the minds. In other words, we may agree to a contract but not really like it, but it's pretty good, so we will adhere to it. On the other hand, mutual assent is a true mental understanding and alignment from both parties to an agreement. It is the process of offer and acceptance that leads to a mutual assent. Related words: mutual consent, genuine assent, meeting of the minds. Backfill, properly putting excavated dirt back. Say that a wall needs to be installed to hold back a portion of a hillside. Parentheses, such a wall is called a retaining wall, end parentheses. Dirt is temporarily dug away to provide enough room to install a steel-reinforced concrete foundation, on top of which cement masonry unit blocks are placed and the voids filled with rebar and filled with concrete. When construction of the structural retaining wall is done, the dirt that was removed has to be put back, and the process is called backfill or backfilling. The process is important because if the dirt isn't backfilled correctly, compacted at the proper moisture level in layers called, quote, lifts, end quote, the dirt above the backfill dirt may shift. Backfill means to properly put back excavated dirt. Related words: retaining wall. Annual percentage rate, APR. Interest and fees of property loan put into percentage rate. The annual percentage rate, or APR, is the accumulation of the interest charged on a loan and all the expenses of taking the loan added up and divided by the total amount of the loan. The APR allows property loans to be compared on an equal basis. Before the APR was required by the Truth in Lending Act, some companies would charge low interest with high fees, and others would charge higher interest with lower fees. The two loans being difficult to compare, because of the complexities of the charges involved. The APR helps to equalize the loan playing field by requiring all property loans to disclose the annual percentage rate. Related words, loan interest. Brownfield, rundown or unused factory property. Brownfield is the name used to describe a rundown factory property. Imagine the weeds grown high out of the unused parking lot. Maybe the property has been fenced to keep trespassers out, and most of all, imagine broken windows through which mischievous neighborhood kids have thrown rocks, and that is a brownfield. Now imagine the concern over whether the property has been contaminated by the previous business. Even if the property has not been contaminated, the worry lessens the property value even more. A brownfield is a rundown or unused factory property. Amenities, extras that buyers feel add value to a property. Appraisal is the process of determining market value of a property. It is the appraiser's responsibility to give her opinion of the market value based on accepted processes and procedures. The idea of value must play a role in the process. Value can be sorted into different categories. The field of economics has worked to define value to people and has defined value in use, parentheses, utility value, end parentheses, and subjective value. Amenities are aspects of a property that add value to a property in the minds of potential buyers. A separate entryway might be valuable to a family who lives with their parents, for example. Related words, appraisal, value, value in use, utility value, subjective value. Engineer, college degree professional who designs by standards. An engineer is a professional with a college degree who designs according to acceptable design standards. A 4-year accredited college degree is a baseline factor in calling a person an, quote, engineer, end quote. Many engineers have professional licenses if their work affects people, like the professional engineer, parentheses, PE, end parentheses, designation earned through work under APE, passing tests, a license number, and in most cases, insurance. Civil engineering, which includes structural engineering, environmental engineering, wastewater engineering, transportation engineering, hydraulics engineering, etc., usually pursue the PE designation. PEs can, quote, stamp, end quote, drawings, which means they have a seal with their name and license number, which becomes affixed to the plans and calculations for projects that, if something were to go wrong, often the lives of people may hang in the balance. Engineers are often the unsung heroes of a working society, as clean water, sewage processing, or structures which withstand earthquake forces are taken for granted. An engineer is a professional with a college degree who designs according to acceptable design standards. Related words, 4-year college engineering degree, professional engineer, parentheses, PE, end parentheses. Assignor, person doing the assigning of a lease or contract. An assignment is a transferring of rights and responsibilities for a lease or contract to another person or entity. The person doing the assigning is the assignor or principal, and the person receiving the assignment is the assignee. Assignment does not relieve the principal from obligation of the responsibilities of the contract or lease. A novation is required for that to happen. A novation is a complete transfer. A novation is not just a transferring of the rights and responsibilities to another person, but a substitution of one principal for another. An assignment is the transferring of rights and responsibilities for a lease or contract to another person or entity. The assignor is the person doing the assignment of a lease or contract. Related words: assignment, novation. Bearing wall. Wall in a home which carries load from above. A bearing wall is a wall in a home or structure which acts as a column, that is, carries the load of the structure above it. For example, if when gutting a house prior to a complete remodel, the contractor knocked down a bearing wall, the roof structure would collapse down onto the floor below. Almost no contractor would let such a thing happen, because bearing walls are identified first, and if the remodel requires removal, a new beam and column system would have to be installed to replace the bearing wall. Structure loads, or weight, flow through a structure in a load path. The bearing walls are the vertical members through which load flows to the ground.